Hi, thank you for joining us today for this unscheduled impromptu DHAP broadcast. With us today, I've got Iabo Morrison, Teresa Palladino, and Nicholas Hickman. And I'm Judith Garza. Some of the things that we'll be discussing today are specifically centered on the DHAP broadcast, the DHAP extension and potential conversion, but a couple of other things are more centered around Hurricane Irene. So we'll get to those towards the end. But we'd like to start this morning's discussion about the DHAP extension, and we'd like to follow up and say that in addition to today's broadcast, we will also have a call on Friday to discuss the details of this extension with you, because it's a little bit technical. We received word from Fema last night on the extension, and it is for 4 months. However, it is through January 31st, unless FEMA and OMB determine that we receive our conversion vouchers or conversion appropriation before then, in which case it's for 60 days from the date of receipt of the appropriation. And I'm actually having trouble spelling this out myself, so let me say that once again because it is a little technical. The extension should not exceed January 31st, 2012. That is 4 months that the extension is being extended for. The program will be extended. However, should HUD receive the appropriation for conversion vouchers before then, the extension will be for 2 months, 60 days from the date of receipt of the conversion vouchers. An example of this would be, hypothetically, we receive appropriations in October. So let's say we receive the funding October 31st or November 1st. The extension would then be 60 days from November 1st, because that would have been the date that HUD received the appropriations for conversion. So 60 days from that would put us under the January deadline. That would put us at December 31st. Okay. Again, we'll have a call on Friday so that we can discuss this, but the really important point to mention is it will not exceed January 31st, 2012. What this means is, should we not receive the conversion between the months of October and January, should we receive the conversion appropriations possibly in March, the program will have ended by then, and all conversion activities will be on the PHAs and on HUD to be able to maintain relationships and contact with the families that we would be considering for conversion. Okay, that's the third part of this information. Ending January 31st, and if there is a conversion anytime after that, then the conversion will be on the PHAs. With that, I'll turn it over to Teresa and Iabo and help me kind of explain this, because again, I'm getting myself a little confused and worked up, and I just want to make sure that I'm explaining this because this is different than what we had with our conversion in DHAP Katrina. And Nick, jump in at any point because you also helped us with the conversion during DHAP Katrina. This is similar to TRP. Right. But it's definitely not the same thing. We're not calling it TRP. It's an extension of the program, but not the traditional program. And that's what I want you guys to help me explain as well, what the extension entails. Not just the time, because we'll break that down in the notes that we send to everyone, but what activities are still carried on during the transition.
So as Judith mentioned, this news came to HUD a short time ago, and of course, we immediately reached out to the PHAs. We're still fine-tuning the policies and the program policies that will be associated with this extension. However, in advance to getting you those updated SOPs, you can be expected to cease case management and cease continued eligibility assessments. What a family receives for HAP in the month of September is what that family will continue receiving throughout the course of this extension. Nothing more, nothing less. And again, there will also be other program obligations required of the family with this extension. Again, these details are still being worked out at HUD headquarters, but you can expect that we will need families to adhere to providing documentation associated with pre-screening in a set time frame determined by HUD. So that way we can assist the housing agencies in processing these pre-screening applications as soon as possible. Families who don't meet the newly set requirements could be terminated from the program. some of these SOPs that we're really going to be following closely, with exception of date changes, is PIH Notice 2010-22. This notice was, proactive thinking a little while back and thinking that we might get conversion much sooner. So we will be focusing on these SOPs and reworking them as needed to make suitable deadlines and timeframes. As Judith mentioned, the program is set to expire January 31st, and we do not have that guarantee that we will get the conversion appropriations. As such, we very much so encourage housing agencies to continue providing housing alternatives to their families. For example, if your Housing Choice Voucher program has vouchers available and you think that you could convert a family to the Housing Choice Voucher program, we definitely encourage you to do so. And reworking our program policies, as you'll note that they're already in the notice, families who choose to decline a voucher, a Housing Choice Voucher, whether it be through special appropriations or otherwise, may face termination again from the program. Again, this extension is solely to get families to a permanent housing solution, whether that be the Housing Choice Voucher program or otherwise. So again, we continue to work with your families in that sense, although case management is no longer a requirement. But I'm going to pass it off to Iyabo on that note, because she'll be able to give you more details on that end.
Thank you for putting that heavy weight and burden on me, Teresa. But I'm happy to get into a little bit more detail. How I kind of envision this is more of a modified program and what we're doing at this point. So as Teresa indicated before, we're not going to be doing continuing eligibility determinations. We will not be engaging in case management, but at the same time, there's still going to be some responsibilities on the part of the family. So we don't want families to feel that, okay, I'm just going to get 4 months of assistance and that's it. So really what we've designed this program, or what we're going to design this program to do, again, is to be a transition to the Housing Choice Voucher program. Again, this is going to be contingent upon funding available for a conversion. However, families will be responsible for bringing in documentation, as Teresa indicated. You're going to be doing eligibility determinations and all of the traditional activities that one would do in trying to get onto the Housing Choice Voucher program. So really, again, I see it as more of a modified program, but particular activities are kind of being transitioned. So we no longer have the continuing eligibility and case management, but again, they're kind of being transitioned into another form of activity, which is trying to convert families. And again, as Teresa was saying, we are unsure if there are going to be any type of voucher conversion funds available. So we really do want to make sure that you all continue to try to guide families to alternative housing resources that are available within your particular communities. In the PowerPoint presentation that was provided in July of this year, there were about 4 slides that talked about alternative housing. So definitely you could reach out to your state community housing and development agency. There are a lot of programs out there for individuals who are veterans, and based upon the data in ETO, and I will say thank you for putting that data in there, we have an idea of how many families are receiving veterans benefits. So that might be a good resource for those families. Also, there are a number of people who have self-reported as having a disability, and based upon data in ETO, we also know that some families are receiving supplemental security income, Social Security disability income. So they may be eligible for other housing programs as well. And so there was a link to independent living centers, which are agencies that help persons with disabilities live in the community. So those might be some other resources. As well, of course, there's the U.S. Department of Agriculture, who has a rural housing program. So that might be another resource for agencies to utilize. And then, of course, the HUD multifamily housing programs. So please continue to use the resources that you do have available, because again, we are unsure of what's going to be coming down the pipeline in terms of conversion vouchers. So I think I've said enough, and I probably spoke too quickly. So if you have any questions, you can always shoot me an email or give me a call.
And we'll have follow-up notes for all of this. And I'm glad each of you brought up 2 points that I'd like to go back to, starting with the point that you made about the data and ETO, Yabo. It's because of the data and ETO that we've been receiving that we were able to make the case for the extension for the families. And so we thank you all for doing that. And one of the main reasons that FEMA has determined to structure our extension as it is without continued project or case management incorporated is because a lot of that data really isn't going to change. We've pretty much seen that these are the hardest of the hardest families to assist, and a lot of the statistics and demographics really at this point aren't going to change too much. So they really wanted us to focus our efforts on the possibility of conversion. So, for that reason, that's why it's not looking like a traditional program extension, but yet it's not TRP. Another good question that came up, and you mentioned earlier as well, Teresa, is I got a call from a PHA, and you know who you are, and we thank you very much because the call is really a great lead to this piece of the conversation. For PHAs who've already begun their conversion or who have converted quite a few of their own families, they asked, what happens now if I've converted everyone that I possibly can? What do I do with the remainder of the families who are in the program who I cannot convert? Well, this 4 months that we have this extension will be to focus on everything that Iyabo has been talking about. I mean, the families still have need. You've identified that. Could they not convert because of other reasons outside of behavioral reasons or problematic reasons that would preclude them from the program or have them EOP'd? Sure. So they still have need. They're not violating the program. There's still a need for continued assistance. Please take this time to continue assisting them by working with them with the referrals, and as Iyabo mentioned, the information that was provided in July that will be provided again, continue working with them that way. The program still continues in that sense. This is a continuation of rental assistance that FEMA and OMB are looking at as a bridge to the potential conversion. Again, we want to stress they have not confirmed that a conversion is even that big of a possibility. It could go either way. I think we've all recently seen the news these past couple of days. FEMA's funds are running very low. With Irene response, they've had to halt other responses in other states that were impacted incredibly this year, like Joplin. I think that was specifically spelled out in the news. And therefore, with that in mind, I think FEMA and OMB went into this with the best intentions. They really were supporting us with an OMB conversion, but given this past week's activities, we don't even know what that means anymore. I know that they were very adamant about conversion being necessary for these families based on the information that you've been able to provide. But again, no one predicted Irene to be as large and expensive as it was, and with the already strained federal budget, that could have a huge effect, a major impact on our conversion. So please use this time to work with your families to convert them into any possibility, any existing vouchers that you have within your program, and to work with them into longer-term planning outside of HUD, as Iyabo was mentioning earlier. With that, Nick Hickman will walk us through conversion and what that looks like or the possibility setting up for conversion, and what that looks like in DIS, because again, these 4 months are intended to be 4 months where we as HUD and the PHAs work together to prepare the families as much as possible for a potential conversion. If they should determine that we receive funding, we need to be able to pull the trigger and convert families within 60 days. That doesn't give us a lot of time, does it, Nick?
No, it's quite a quick turnaround.
Definitely quicker than Katrina was, right?
Yes.
So with that, you'll tell us what we need to do to be able to make this as quick and expedited as possible?
Sure.
Okay.
Try my best here. Well, as many of you have already seen in the records, even more so in the recent months where there's been a lot of cleanup around the DHAP records in the system, in DIS. At the bottom of those lease records, and they've been there forever, I believe going back to October of 2010, there are about 9 data fields that are relevant to a potential HCV conversion. They were put there last year prior to the most recent extension that brought us through September 30 of this year. In any case, those data fields are there to assist not only your housing authority in tracking the work that your folks are doing on the ground and in helping these families prepare for a potential conversion or converting over to a voucher program, as well as on HUD side, Fema side, and OMB side to track that work and who is making that transition over and who is still eligible for the DHAP program through these last potential 4 months. Those fields, and I won't speak to 2 of them, which are the pre-screening, as some of these details are still being worked out as it relates to this specific extension. However, the remaining 7 begin with the full HCV application have been completed. That field is a date field. So what HUD is asking of your housing authority is when the family has satisfied all of the requirements to complete the HCV application, that your folks go in and enter the date in which that application was completed. That date field will be specific to and help HUD identify how quickly this process is going, as well as potentially tied to incentive fees as it relates to this potential conversion and the extension. Moving forward, the next field is, was that family eligible? The yes or no drop-down menu will give an indication of the folks that are remaining on this program who can be converted. Moving forward, the HCV inspection date. Once the family has identified a unit that they want to live in fact, let me back up. I'm reading the order in which I copied it from the system. However, in that normal process of conversion, they would be issued the RAFTA. With that RAFTA, the family will go out and look for the unit find a unit that they're interested in living in. At that point, then you go back into the system and enter the date in which the HQS inspection was completed. And then there's another field that says HQS inspection result, whether it's passed or failed. HUD is interested, again, in looking at all this information. There also is the 2 fields related to the RAFTA. The date the RAFTA was issued to the family, and then the date the RAFTA was returned from the family back to your housing authority. And again, the last field would be the date the family came under lease in the voucher program. All these fields combined help give a broader picture, again, to HUD, and the activity your housing authority is doing to prepare these families and or converting these families over to the voucher program, as well as showing the progress of the family's eligibility in the DHAP extension and any potential incentive fees that are granted towards your housing authority for the work that you've been doing. That's it for as far as the conversion goes.
That's quite a bit of ground to cover. Thank you for explaining that, because that makes sense. Will we have a handout or maybe something to provide as well to back up
Sure.
To kind of illustrate what it is that you're saying? Because I know it's pretty technical and we need to have that information in the system.
Yes, certainly. We'll certainly put together a format for tutorial step-by-step of what to do as you enter each stage of a conversion in the conversion process.
Excellent. And again, we'll cover some of these points or all of these points again on our call on Friday with you all. But it was really important to share this with you as quickly as possible, as we just received this information ourselves, a confirmation yesterday evening. And we'd like you to know as quickly as possible so that the parts of the program that will end, the traditional parts of the program that will end, such as the case management part, we are still 30 days away from that. We're ahead of the program, so we received the notice within the time frame that still adheres to that part of the program. So something else to consider with this is reconciliation. And as we go through this, we still haven't quite fleshed out the details because we haven't gotten all the information as to how reconciliation and closeout will play along with it. And I think looking at our PHAs and looking at the caseloads that each PHA has, each of you will handle it differently based on how many families you have within your system. And we need to hear from you as to what level of support that you need. PHAs with a couple of families, or PHAs who've recently transitioned all of their families off, moving into closeout mode right now should really not be that difficult. And working reconciliation shouldn't be that difficult. And I think on the last broadcast we'd mentioned we should hopefully start with the smaller PHAs that have the least amount of families. Not smaller by PHA size, but by DHAP family size. And so in looking at that, it's really important to know that this is how we will be working with you. But if you are a PHA with a large amount of families and you require some assistance, please reach out to us. This is all very, still very new, and how we're working this out and what this will look like. So reach out to us and let us know, because again, the expectation is that these next 4 months will be DHAP closeout and conversion preparation. And it's very important that that we have to modify, as Teresa mentioned, our operating procedures and guidelines, and as Nick mentioned, the pre-conversion activities, because they were not included, pre-conversion activities in the traditional sense, were not included in the the FEMA language as to what this program is going to look like. We are supposed to prepare as much as possible, but we can't have the RAPTAs, and there are a couple of other things that we can't go ahead and go forward with, because again, at any moment we could be told that conversion is not approved and the extension is only of the program through January 31st. So let's talk about reconciliation.
Great. Well, as Judith mentioned, some of these details are still being worked out as it relates to the initial start of the reconciliation closeout. But as she mentioned, it will end January 31st, as well as the extension of the program. During that time, as some of you folks have seen in the past, each funding increment or funding level that you've received as it relates to the different fees. We have HAP, admin fees, administration fees, case management fees, placement fees, security and utility deposit fees. Though placement fees, utility deposit, and security deposit have already started the reconciliation, all 6 will be initiated again for the closeout to ensure that your housing authority has been trued up. You have been provided all the funding need that you have worked, as well as all the money that was not used is returned to HUD as it relates to these 6 categories. The details of whether the size of the PHA determining who will receive the reconciliation first, I think some of the PHAs that no longer have any DHAP families currently under a lease, and some of the housing authorities it's been quite a while since they've had any families, may see some of this reconciliation come first to just help get through the process quicker. However, the initiation you'll see in that is the reconciliation files being sent out to your housing authority with instructions on how the calculation is being performed and the data that's being pulled for each of the categories. As it relates to the HAP funding, the reconciliation of the HAP funding will be based both on your DIS data, the data that you've entered in the system as it relates to the family's lease records that they have utilized over the course of the program, as well as VMS data, the expenses incurred specific to HAP for the DHAP IKE program over the course of the program, as well as the disbursement of funds from HUD to your housing authority over the course of the program. The 3 of those combined are used to calculate what is either owed back to your housing authority or what is owed back to HUD for unused funds. That same process is similar in the in the security and utility deposit, where they're using VMS data. As it relates to administration fees, case management fees, and placement fees, those are all purely based on DIS data and the disbursement of funds from HUD to your housing authority. Again, the placement fee as well as the administration fee and the case management fee tie directly to eligible HAP leases within DIS. So all the criteria that you've been working with over these past several months, in that the 3 boxes are checked, family contacted, the family agrees to case management, the DRC assigned by the landlord, as well as valid data in the HAP total field, valid lease dates that don't conflict with other leases and or other housing authorities' leases, all are consistent, determine the administration fee, the case management fee, and the placement fee. That going forward, more details will come out as the reconciliation kicks off with the end date of wrapping up the closeout of all funds by January 31st, 2012.
Great. And thank you again for sharing this information. And there's a huge comfort level in knowing that you assisted us with Katrina, the reconciliation and the conversion. So you have that experience and you can use that with us, and answer questions. We don't foresee this being the same type of situation because record keeping and the program was run just a little bit differently based on lessons learned. So I think you're really giving us information that can help us head a lot of these issues off at the pass. So
Sure.
Thank you very much.
We'll certainly speak about it in more detail as more of this is flushed out as it relates to the closeout.
Exactly. If you would like to have, a call outside of this Friday's call specifically about reconciliation, or if you would like a broadcast specifically about reconciliation, let us know too, because I think sometimes it helps a visual of it, maybe a flow chart or something, or sometimes visuals help, and sometimes talking through it, because a lot of PHAs have very good questions that can often benefit other PHAs. That could also help. So with that, the last topic for discussion today is Hurricane Irene, Tropical Storm Irene, and any possible DHAPs in the future. Yabo, Teresa? Have either of you?
No, I kid. At this point, we have not had any conversations with FEMA about implementing a disaster housing assistance program for families affected by Hurricane Irene, or at this point, Tropical Storm Irene. The department has been getting some phone calls from families who have been affected by Irene. Again, unfortunately, at this time, we are unable to assist them with housing assistance as they are non-HUD families. So we have been referring them to FEMA at 1-800-621-3362. And again, we also encourage families to go online to FEMA's website at www.fema.gov. There's substantial information on how to recover from disaster, as well as online applications for assistance. Their website is ample with information. As well, the department also has our standing DHAP Ike 1-800 number, which is 1-877-483-2251. Again, this number is specifically for DHAP Ike families and DHAP Ike PHAs. You're more than welcome to call it if you don't feel that you want to call us directly. Again, that number is 1-877-483-2251. We're always very, very happy and pleased to talk with families to help them work through any issues that they may be having. However, we do like to remind families, as well as our housing agencies, that the first line of communication should always be with the housing authority. The minute HUD has any updates on extension or otherwise, or program updates, you're the first to know. You literally know within the same day as the department, more often than not. So we do encourage families to always maintain consistent communication with their housing authority prior to reaching out to HUD directly.
Mm-hmm. Should we have any updates, we'll have another impromptu, unscheduled broadcast like this. Please pardon the kind of the difficulty in the flow of this today. It's just we've recently received this information and we're sharing it with you as quickly as possible. And as mentioned, we'll get back with you with further details. But for right now, the things that are confirmed and that we want to just hit on one last time, the program ends regardless of conversion, regardless of anything. Housing assistance for DHAP Ike families ends January 31st, 2012, period. Should there be a conversion, and FEMA and OMB were very, very adamant in their support for conversion, and in fact, that's what this 4-month extension is a bridge to conversion that they hope that we will receive, as do we. Should there be one, the program extension will be 60 days from the date of the receipt of HUD's receipt of conversion appropriations funding, not to exceed January 31st. Another way to look at this is if we receive the funding on January 1st, the program still ends January 31st. We'll spell this out in paper, in a document for you, because it is quite technical, but FEMA was very explicit that housing assistance does not exceed January 31st, 2012. And the extension would be the shorter of the two. And again, these next 4 months are to be used specifically for conversion efforts, reconciliation, closeout efforts. Let us know if you need additional assistance, and we will definitely let you know as quickly as we have any additional information. And we will send out information before the end of the day on our call this Friday. We're looking at possibly 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central to discuss this with you. If there should be any changes, we'll let you know, but we'll get a number out to you as quickly as possible. So please keep that on your radar. A conference call Friday, 10 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern, I'm sorry, 9 a.m. Central. And we'll take your questions. If you'd like to send us questions before then, please email all of us. Email the DHAP mailbox. Please call us. This will really help us prepare material and prepare questions for you for this Friday. Any closing comments?
I guess the only other thing is I'm going to plea and beg. The survey for ETO is up, and it will be up until September 19th. So again, the only way we're able to improve the program is, or at least the case management portion of the program, is if you all notify us of any challenges, successes, or any other things that you'd like us to know about the ETO database. So please, 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 pretty please with sugar on top, fill out the survey, and we'll look forward to receiving that information from you.
Great, thank you. Nick, closing comments?
Please just continue to do the good work that you're doing as it relates to cleaning up your records in the system. It makes it go much smoother and quicker in the closeout and reconciliation of the program. Again, we are always available for any assistance that you may need. Please feel free to call us, email us, contact us in any way that you need your assistance in the process.
Great, thank you. Well, with that, we would like to thank you once again for all the work that you've done. Thank you for all the effort in serving our families, and just contact us if you need anything. Thank you for joining us today on this unscheduled impromptu broadcast. Thank you.